Gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and call the Senate Health and Human Services Committee to order. Reverend Jackson, Senator Jackson, if you don't mind, open us up in prayer. Thank you so much.
Let us pray. Holy God, we give you thanks for the opportunity to gather with one another. We pray for all who are in the health and human resources area and field. We pray especially for those who are sick, who are lonely and afraid. We ask that you would help us to make good decisions that all might find comfort and well-being. Amen.
Thank you. We have 4 House bills and 1 Senate resolution today, and we had the meeting for 1 hour. So we're going to go ahead and sort of go down the list there. House Bill 143, Representative Mathis. If you wouldn't mind coming up, and we do have a substitute for you. And let me make sure you have that. Is LC 339515S. I apologize. Do you mind sharing it? Senator Echols is, y'all had companion bills in the House and the Senate, and hers is in the House now. And I just wanted to make sure that the language mirrored each other. The change, and I'll apologize to not giving you a heads up on this. I thought you had, but it's a very minor change. If you'll look on line 13, continuous glucose monitors as a benefit under Medicaid via the most cost-effective benefit delivery channel, and that was what was agreed upon. You got to remember this continuous glucose monitors, which we're all in favor of, but the ones to administer the Medicaid is DCH, and this is the language that made them comfortable, and so that's sort of where we are. I didn't think you would have any. We always want to be. You know what? It's a good idea if I turn your mic on. That would be
Chairman Watson.
that would be better.
Yes,
so
sir.
if you don't mind, just being brief, because we've heard this bill.
We have.
And that's where we are. The floor is yours.
Yeah, we were just changing it. The governor's office had wanted it to be the most cost-effective instead of from medical to pharmacy, and that is the only change. Everything else stays the same.
Does the committee have any questions for the author or Senator Echols or myself, since we have a little bit of change? We have no questions, so if we'll like to enter a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion do pass.
Do pass, and we got a second. And let me say let me make sure that where are we? Nobody signed up to testify. Any further discussion? Because we've already heard this bill, and no further discussion. If you have a question, the distinguished rules chair.
Chairman, briefly, can we go over the changes again in the substitute?
So in line 13, it starts on 12, coverage for continuous glucose monitors as a benefit under Medicaid via the most cost-effective benefit delivery channel. Okay. And that's it. DCH and the executive branch wanted to make sure that we had that language in there to make it more doable from their perspective.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? We've had a motion to do pass, and it's LC 339515S, and we've had a second. And all those in favor say aye. All those opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Who is carrying? I presume Senator Echols would carry this since it's her bill. She's carried it already there. Thank you. We got it. Thank you. All right, Chair Lady Cooper, we're going to move you up in the agenda there, and then we'll do Representative Townsend. We got House Bill 309. If you give us just a minute to get that bill in front of us. and you had the podium, House Bill 309. It is coming to us without a substitute there.
Okay, you ready? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I have House Bill 309. This is a department bill. 3 years ago, when we made some major changes trying to protect people who moved into assisted living facilities. And one of them is that we wanted to make sure the people that open these facilities were financially stable and able to run these so that we wouldn't have them closing. In doing that, we put in some things where we were going to ask certified public CPAs to certify certain things. Well, when the department started working this out, the CPA said they don't do things that way. So this just clears up the language so that it meets what we wanted, is to protect and make sure people were financially able to run these facilities, but so that the CPAs could do what they normally do when they give an evaluation of somebody's finances.
Do we have any questions from the committee? Senator Setzler.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, to the lady, are there standards that are already established that say this is what solid, what financial stability means? Are there cash reserve requirements? Are there things like that that are already established, or has this not yet been established before?
No, I think, and Joe Hood is here with me if I might be allowed to answer it, but it's my understanding that CPAs have sort of guidelines about how they evaluate this kind of situation.
Could you help clarify the situation?
Joe?
Anything further, please? Yes, sir. Just, if you don't mind going to the mic and just identifying yourself.
Good afternoon. My name's Joe Hood. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the Georgia Department of Community Health. To your question, sir, we will rely upon a certified public accountant to certify the pro forma financial statements or audited financial statements, depending upon what's available and their concern and the reason for the change is originally we had asked that they certify that the business was a going concern in a positive statement. And they've stated that they cannot do that. What they can do is that they can state in the negative. In other words, they would state that we do not see any findings or efforts that show that the business is not a going concern. There's nothing relative to say that we should be concerned about. And we had to limit it to 1 year worth of financial statements versus the 2 years that's currently in statute.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, the only reason I ask the question is, does this give any more authority to establish sort of a baseline requirement? I asked that because I know there's been some facilities when we were dealing a couple years ago with pregnancy homes. They had to maintain what I thought was a very high level of cash reserves on hand that was mandated by the department. Are we creating an issue that gives rise to that kind of rulemaking?
We're not seeking or establishing a standard in that way. It would just be a statement by the certified public accountant that they're attesting that they don't see an issue that's aware in the financial statements that, for the business to operate within the upcoming year, given the scope of the licensee.
It's a transparency issue.
Yes, sir.
Basically. Gotcha. Okay. Any other questions? Any further? No questions? Happy to entertain a motion from Vice Chair.
Yeah, be happy to move, do pass to House Bill 309, 339295 is the LC number.
And second from Senator Huffstetler. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And
Who's carrying that bill? Did we establish that?
you, Garrett? Okay.
Yes. All right.
Thank you.
She doesn't have enough bills as it is, so she'll, okay. I got you. Thank you. So, Representative Townsend, we're on House Bill 181, and by the way, we didn't have anybody signing up to testify for 309. 181, I understand you had a little amount of testimony. I think it was 10 hours, maybe 12 hours, 12 hours. Only 5 committee meetings. I'm sorry, I didn't have your mic on. So that was 12 hours of testimony, 5 committee meetings, and a couple of rewrites here or there. So I understand all parties are in agreement.
They are, sir. We work well together. It's a bipartisan bill. It's one we hooked up with the Kratom industry as well to make sure we monitor it well and make sure the bad actors aren't bad actors anymore. So we're trying to do is make it a safer place for Georgians.
Well, we sure appreciate y'all's diligent work in the House, and if you don't mind taking us through the bill 181 and any updates that we need to know about, the floor is yours.
I'd be glad to, and I think we're speaking from the same one, LC 339513S. Okay, just making sure. Okay, basically it started off as a constituent-based issue. We had a couple of issues. I'm an educator. I'm not known for being in the medical field, and we had two young men. One who was who committed suicide. He was on other drugs as well. Kratom was one of them, and one of the causes of death was Kratom. They said that led to that. A second one where he was given Kratom at a halfway house like the other people to get off other drugs such as opioids. Unfortunately, while he did that, developed psychotic behaviors. He wound up at a mental health institution and just got transferred about a week and a half ago from St. Simon's to Augusta to get additional mental health care. That's how I came across my desk, and I'm a freshman. I'm like, okay, what can we do? And we started looking into it. Then we asked medical professionals, and one thing we realized real quick, it wasn't labeled at all. So if you buy something off the store shelf in convenience stores, you're not sure what you're getting. You're not sure if you're getting a heavy dose, a light dose, a tainted dose, or whatever kind of dose it is, or no dose. And so we learned real quick we had to do more things. You guys passed a bill a few years ago, I believe it was led by Vernon Jones, where it was just basically you had to be 18, and that was pretty much it. What we tried to do is make it a lot more safer for Georgians than that bill was. So we need your help to do that in the process. Like I said, we picked up. And so we put amounts on there. The dosage has to be labeled, effectively, has to be behind the counter. You have to be 21 years, 21 or older for that to happen. It does not allow for vaping anymore, that product. It does allow for business owners who use it, who do it the right way. We met a couple, one from Atlanta area nearby here and one from the Rome, that actually did it the right way and labeled it and made sure her constituents knew what she was selling. And that's what we're going for in this bill, is to make sure it is done in the proper manner. I'm trying to keep it short and sweet, Mr. Chair. If you have any other questions, I'll be glad to answer it. The biggest thing was getting it labeled correctly, making sure it is what people know what they're putting in their bodies, and make sure there's a little enforcement to it as well. The first, it does allow for if the manufacturer doesn't do it properly, the first offense will be a misdemeanor, the second offense would be a felony. So they get that pass. And we're not going after the store owner or the constituent if the manufacturer doesn't do it properly or the distributor. It's not the store owner's fault if they catch it just because they received a shipment, or if somebody buys it that way, it's not their fault as well. So no harm for them if that happens. And there's more in there, but I'll be glad to go over or answer any questions I can, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Townsend. I know that we've had one or two discussions on this bill too.
Yes, sir.
And I think we do have some questions from the committee. My vice chair, Senator Kirkpatrick.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
We've been having a fairly robust discussion about some other products, but in the Senate. But what I wanted to ask is, which department is accountable for sort of being in charge of this whole process? I can't see a department that's accountable for it anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's in a code section, but
Yeah, basically it would be, help. Law enforcement, basically, yeah. It'd basically be law enforcement enforcing it, as in if it's behind the counter and if it's not labeled correctly.
okay.
And we talked to the sheriff's organization and the chiefs of police, and we have their support as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize for my ignorance. I'm not exactly sure what kratom is, and I've done a little bit of research before I walked in. I hadn't heard of it.
Yeah.
Is there a medical use? Are there prescription drugs?
It's not a medical use for it. No, it's not a prescription. We talked about going that direction first. The first bill was going to ban it totally, and then as we got more into it, worked with the kratom industry, that part was lowered to an extent. But basically, it's an over-the-counter food product from Southeast Asia. It's on the danger list from the DEA. You'll see opponents of kratom, such as Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, others, and you have others who profess to endorse it. So it's one of those where it's not monitored right now. It's not regulated at all. It's not a safe substance for Georgians to take right now.
It's considered an over-the-counter food supplement.
It is.
Can I follow up?
Sure.
One question I have is I read somewhere that it can be used as an aid to come off of pain medicine. Is that, have you heard?
The 12 hours of testimony and talked to many professionals. One of them here is Dr. Lopez from Georgia Poison Control Center. One of the things we've learned is if they use it the right manner, such as the low doses we're talking about, or some people use just the leaves, the substance itself is a plant-based, so it's the leaf form, that or the powdered from crushed leaves. You see people like that who are using it properly to get through their pain or whatever else. It's when they start upping the dose or putting other products in there, the adulterated kind, or using, I equate it to now with this bill, it's like alcohol. You can go out and buy a case and you can drink it in one day, you can drink it over 12 days or 24 days. 12 days, 24 days, a case is not going to hurt you if you drink one or two a day, two cans of beer. Same way with this bill with kratom is, it still allows for that down the road, just like any other substance where you can abuse it if you really wanted to, but you're going to have to try hard to do it. Right now, you don't have to try hard to do that.
Okay, thank you.
And the age was increased from 18 to 21 also.
Yes, sir.
Any other? Chairman Huffstetler?
I've got a question on it, but I was going to state I believe it works on the mu receptors, which is the same that the opioids work on in the body, so it's very
Yes.
mild, but on the same receptors. But you've got in here that it can't be smoked. I mean, that's kind of unenforceable, isn't it? Or if they
That's
buy
going to be
it.
a hard one. They probably keep some of your vape shops who are just to advertise it that way, to smoke it and vape it. It's like anything else. If you want to really abuse it, you can go home and abuse it and do what you want. Not much we can do about that, but it wouldn't limit the bad actors from advertising that way. We're encouraging others. Right now, you'll see some kids, for some reason, I think it's because it's like when I stopped home, I live in South Georgia, and I stopped in Macon on the way back to make sure I can get through I-16, you know how that goes. And I was a little tired, so I had the choice of a kratom right there in front of the counter, Skittles, Snickers, 5-Hour Energy. It's like, which one do I take? Well, I knew better than take the kratom. So that's kind of the situation in now where it's not a good situation.
Any other questions from the committee? We did have some folks sign up for this. We had Jerry Keene sign up. You can certainly, if you come up and introduce yourself and tell us who you represent, and the podium's yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm here on behalf of the American Kratom Association, which is 15 million users around the country and over 200,000 in Georgia. We're here to support Representative Townsend and his good work to make sure those products remain available to the consumer in a healthy, safe way. Unfortunately, like many other industries, there are those, as Representative said, are bad actors who mislabel, who adulterate the product, and then cause problems. But for many, many Georgians and millions across the country, this is a valuable product that they use, including 2 or 3 members of the General Assembly, and we want to keep safe access to them while at the same time protecting Georgia consumers. So we support this bill in its current form. We'd encourage the committee to vote it out in its current form so we can get it back across for an agree and down the governor's office, and we will join 45 other states in passing a consumer protection bill protecting consumers' rights to use kratom, but also penalizing the bad actors. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Keene? Just, you brought it up, so I apologize, just for my education. 45 other states do regulate this?
Yes.
And are they behind the counter, most of them?
No, some are and some are not.
Okay.
But-
And did they did they increase it from 18 to 21, or is 21 the age?
No, we're one of the few that did that, so it's going to be even stricter here than most states.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, we're creating questions here, sorry about that. Senator
The
Hufstedler.
bill on line 56 says it shan't be modified chemically or otherwise, but then when you get back, it talks about salts, isomers, optical isomers, salts of their isomers. I mean, that sounds like a chemical modification to me if it's the same as some other products.
Well, no, when the product is manufactured and processed, there are food products only that are used to modify it. The problem, Senator, is that the bad actors use some other stuff that's pretty dangerous by itself to mix with this. There's a lot of counterfeiters out there, and what Representative Townsend's done is we put labeling, dosage amounts, what the products are that can only be used approved food additives to process it, and no other items. And if we find out someone's adulterating the product, then we've got a penalty mechanism built in.
But if you're creating these isomers, it may be food products, but you're chemically modifying the food product to get there with solvents and acids.
I'm
not sure about that part of it.
Okay. Well, I'm really not able to address that directly, other than that the product, when it's presented in the right dosage, it poses no threat. It's when it's adulterated or abused in the amount of dosage that it presents a problem.
We have a poison control expert here, right?
Yes, sir, Dr. Gaylord Lopez.
Yeah, probably Dr. Lopez could answer that question for us, maybe? Dr. Lopez, just introduce yourself, give us your background quickly, and we may repeat the question for you if we need to.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gaylord Lopez. I'm the Executive Director of the Georgia Poison Center. I've been there now for 34 years. Our poison center is the only poison center in the state of Georgia.
Great. And Chairman Hufstedler, do you mind repeating the question
Okay,
for us?
what my question is, early in the bill, it says it shall not be, it's got to be natural kratom plant, shall not be modified chemically or otherwise, processed or synthesized, or otherwise treated in any way. And then you go back to the products, and it's saying any quantity of these products, including their salts, isomers, optical isomers, salts of their isomers, and salts of these optical isomers.
Yeah, what
I mean,
line
if
are
I
we talking
remember
about?
that's on line. Well, I guess it's 11. Is this the same? Oh, this is a different bill. Mine are stuck together. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's that paper clip up there.
Okay.
All right.
So we're not doing. There's nothing used in the process that does that. Then
All right. Who's gonna dissect this for us? Mr. Keene, you sound like you would like to. All righty. Okay. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Eli Cohen. I'm also on the list to testify. I'm an attorney at the Weathington Law Firm, and I have the lawsuits that are suing the kratom industry for kratom products causing my client's death. And we have worked with the American Kratom Association. We're both in favor of this bill. To answer your question, Senator, that point about should not be otherwise modified, the finality of that line is that increases the product's strength. Because what you have is kratom is sold generally in two different forms. So you'll have it in raw leaf or like powdered form. Right, and this is generally just like the leaf as it would have come off the tree. But then what you also get is you get companies that synthesize and make extracts. And this is an incredibly potent form of kratom. And that's what this bill is really focusing on, is these extra potent kratom. So for example, the powder is often sold in powders or pill forms. It would take 26 of these pills to equal this small amount. So that's what that bill is focusing on, ensuring that kratom cannot be enhanced in order to over-strengthen it, because that's what's going to kill Georgians.
Is that, yeah?
Try to do it quick.
Senator Lucas wants you to, what else are in your pockets there? I got you. Okay. All right, we're good. Okay. We're good. Senator Setzler, floor is yours.
Thank you. that was, one of my questions was going to be about the distillation of it. I've heard some states have made this Schedule 1, which means just not available. How many states have made this Schedule 1?
It's my understanding that there's 6 states that currently have it banned completely. I think if Mr. Keene stood up and told you, he'd tell you that 1 or 2 of those are considering.
Ms. King, get to the mic if you don't mind.
Vermont just rolled that back and to regulation, and Rhode Island's in the process. Speaker of the House is carrying the bill up there, so we're
So how many states now, I guess is the question?
45 regulated.
45 regulated.
Right. So there are
and-
5 where it's banned. One of those is in the process of rolling it back to
And
regulation.
the USDA, DEA chose not to regulate this, treat it as a food supplement. They did not weigh in on it, and that's if you
correct.
remember correctly, some of you were here, that's Chairman Mullis passed a bill out of this committee relating to kratom. And so it's been an ongoing issue, and we're tightening up further regulation that we're carrying that forward.
Correct. Thank you for that, Mr. Chairman.
So, Mr., the thrust of my question was really the percentages. I mean, I've heard the examples of where the leaves themselves have an effect, and that's what sort of how people became aware of it. And then the distilled version is what's much more potent. What are we talking about in the context of the four corners of this bill? What is authorized in terms of a distilled product? How distilled is that, and how do we understand what we're voting on here?
Sure. So in line 61 through 63, that goes over the actual specific numbers. There's 2 main alkaloids, or 1 alkaloid and 1 metabolite inside of kratom. The main alkaloid is mitragynine, and that is the substance that attaches to the mu-opioid receptor to give you those opioid-like responses. And that is a product that is less dangerous than the second alkaloid, which is then 7-hydroxymitragynine. That is a highly dangerous one, and even the AKA has testified before the General Assembly that is the dangerous substance. That is the thing that can really kill you. And we have limited that in both amounts per milligram, so how much you can have as a ratio of the entire product, and amounts per serving, in order to make sure that you can't serve an ultra strong product. For example, this product would become outlawed in Georgia if this bill passed. The product that killed my client. So that's where we really get to the heart of making sure that these kind of extra strong products are not authorized in Georgia, and then tightening up the labeling requirements, and then actually putting some teeth behind it. Because currently, while Georgia has a kratom regulation, it has no teeth, it has no enforcement mechanism. So the desired end state is to create those enforcement mechanisms for law enforcement.
Further questions from the committee? I appreciate that. So we've gotten everybody on the list except Mr. Jeff Breedlove. He is also, if needed, he is waiving. We appreciate that. Representative Townsend, I'll let you have the last word, and then we'll do the will of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will ask you for a favorable vote on this. We've come with the industry, we've come with medical professionals. We had quite a few more, as you would know, in 12 hours, the testimony to testify before you. But I promise we'll keep it to a limited group. I think you've heard from everybody that we work together and work well together. That's what's nice. And that's what I think we're supposed to do here in the legislature. And I just appreciate your committee hearing this. And again, thank you so much for your time.
We appreciate that. I like your definition of working well together. So but I have seen bills that's been worse. So we're good. So I want to make sure we've exhausted all questions from the committee. All right. No questions. Everybody feels comfortable. Gotcha. All right. Have a motion from Senator Brass, Chairman Brass.
Motion to pass LC 33951 3S.
Okay, we'll make sure we got the S on there and the correct number. So we have a motion, we have
We're doing 181. Right?
we have a second, Senator Jackson, and any further discussion? All those in favor, let's raise our hand. All right, so it's unanimous. Okay. All right, so thank you very much, Senator Townsend.
Thank you.
Did any, who had, refresh my memory on who was carrying this?
Senator Albers.
Senator Albers. Okay.
If he doesn't, I've got a great one that will. So.
Okay. All righty. So we'll, gotcha. Okay. Thank you. I was asking if Representative LaHood was here. He was hiding beside Senator Lucas there. So if you give us a minute to get to 497, House Bill 497, Representative LaHood. Let's see, it passed unanimously out of the House. And okay, so the floor is yours. Is everybody on 497? Okay, all right, floor is yours. There you go.
House Bill 497 is a bill with broad support from two departments. One is the Department of Corrections, the other is the Department of Community Health. What Section 1 does is simply take certified medication aids and applies the same language that they are working under today in assisted living communities and skilled nursing centers, and applying it to state correctional institutions. And the Department of Corrections has asked for this bill, and the reason is because of well, it's been proven that medications can be safely administered with certified medication aids over the last decade plus in these other settings. And also there's severe workforce challenges in healthcare, namely, and this bill would help to alleviate some of those. So again, there's a lot of underlying language here, but it's just simply restating what's already happening in these other workplaces. And Section 2 pertains to certified nursing assistants and how they become certified. And what I've done here is work with the department to establish professional and educational experience standards that must be met for a certified nursing assistant candidate to sit for the test. So no standards are being changed. The same testing standards will remain in place, but the requirements to be eligible to take the test, the department's going to look at that and put some reasonable standards in for professional and educational experience. And I'll be glad to take questions if there are any.
Senator Hatchett.
Thank you, Representative. And I just wanted to say I was able to speak to the Georgia Department of Corrections folks, and I know the new commissioner is all on board with this bill. So just want to say thank you for bringing it.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Got Senator Chairman Huffstadler.
I see in line 39 that they will be administering a commercially prepared enema instead of the physician. Did the physicians put you up to carrying this bill, or?
Yeah, I think they were tired of giving enemas, so they wanted the nurses medication aids to start doing that.
Okie dokie. All right. Any other pertinent questions there? So, all right, do we have follow-up here?
Thank you. I'm not going to ask you about enemas, but what I did want to just clear up is I don't see the qualifications that make someone a certified medication aid in here, and I know the department, I think you said they were going to write that up, but if we're already doing that in assisted living, there are probably some in existence already, and I just didn't know what those were.
Right. So Mr. Hood here could speak to that if needed, but there is a pathway to become a certified medication aid, and the prerequisite is that the candidate first has to be a certified nurse's aide, and then they take a medication aid course, which is pretty short, and it can happen over 1 or 2 days, and then they take a test that's a state test to state standards, and there's a database that the department manages in correlation with the certified nursing assistant database.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? We have a couple of folks that signed up. Sheila Humberstone and John Watson. I think they're if needed. Both are waiving in support. Both are in full support. And anything further to add, Representative?
If there's no other questions.
Any questions? Be happy to entertain a motion. Have a motion to do pass on LC 339442S from Senator Jackson, House Bill 497, second by Senator Kirkpatrick. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously. Thank you. And Representative Hood, who was carrying that for you?
I've spoken to my friend Senator Eccles.
Okay.
And she's agreed to carry it.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Alrighty. And last but not least, Senator James. We appreciate that. If you might want to back up, and I think you can move that. There we go. That's good. Take your time.
Okay. It's almost out of power, huh? It's charged. I don't know what's going on. It's tired of me.
All right, we're on Senate Resolution 250. Senator James, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. This is a resolution urging the city of East Point and the city of South Fulton to take joint action to activate the East Point and South Fulton hospital authorities to establish a new hospital to serve the citizens of South Fulton. You know, it's been a recent closure of the Atlanta Medical Center South, as well as the other medical center in downtown Atlanta, and it adversely affected our area, and this leaves more than 150,000 people without access to emergency health care, and consequently it also poses a problem for the world's busiest airport, with the nearest hospital being approximately 10 miles or more, which is in downtown Atlanta. So I have worked with Councilman Joshua Butler in East Point and about 10 other council persons in South Fulton, one in Hateville, one in East Point. We are all in that area where the hospital closed and is affecting us not having anyone there. And I've talked to about 200 medical professionals, mostly doctors, who were at one of those hospitals or still serving in Wellstar. And they've been meeting like almost every week to see what we could do. And the reason we're asking for a hospital authority is because the sources of money for a new hospital, if we aren't able to purchase the existing brick and mortar place that was the Wellstar, if we can't purchase that, we have a place land already on Camp Creek Parkway that is available. We have money sources, but we need a hospital authority. And I've gone before both of the city councils for East Point as well as for the city of South Fulton. And we had a meeting November 9th. That was our first. Since then, we've had 3 other meetings, and we've had numerous conference calls. So everybody is aboard, but we need to have our CON and also our hospital authority, and we can get that if we create a joint hospital authority. And so that's what we're trying to do now, and this would just give us an opportunity to go to the next level. So hopefully by this time next year we'll have a new hospital. So I ask for your favorable consideration, but I can answer any questions that you might have.
Certainly. Any questions got a couple of questions. We're going to go with Senator Brass with his hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Senator James, for bringing this forward. I'm curious, what's going to be the strategy on the certificate of need? You said 10 miles is the closest
Hospital that's
available. Hospital.
That's Grady.
We just had a hearing a few weeks back on a new potential hospital and had strong opposition from hospitals that were exactly 10 miles away. So is there some strategy I'm unaware of that could help?
No, Grady's is the hospital that I was referring to that was over 10 miles, or a little over 10 miles away. And they are now the trauma unit. They have to service all of Georgia. And so we still need a hospital in our area that can service everything: Hateville, East Point, College Park, Union City, Fairburn, Palmetto, Chattahoochee Hills, the city of South Fulton, and I might be leaving out.
Palmetto. Did you say Palmetto? Yeah.
Yes, that's your city. So.
Palmetto and Chattahoochee Hills. So yeah, I think it's certainly an area that's going to be underserved, and I'm just wondering how in the world we're going to get a certificate of need when they won't. The department doesn't seem to want to.
We've been working with.
Nobody wants to support that.
We
It just
wanted
seems
to
like.
to work with Wellstar still. We're not trying to.
Well, Wellstar was one of the ones opposing
Well, they might.
the last hospital that was 10 miles from them.
Okay, this might not be a problem because the only other one, both of them are closed, that was servicing those areas. And Grady's now has a huge, more responsibility than they've had before. So we've talked to Wellstar. We were trying to see if they would give us the CON that they have already. And so we've been
What'd they
working
say
on-
to that?
They want to see money. They want to know what we're talking about. So the doctors who I've been working with want to sit down with them because many of them are employed by Wellstar still. And so they're not going to leave. Plus we have some of the other medical schools, including the Morehouse School of Medicine, that's interested. And they told us we have to get to a certain point and they'll come join us. But we have to be organized more, and they want us to be organized, even though we've had probably more than 35 meetings, and we are organized, we're all professionals, but they want us to have a hospital authority so we can be under it, or we need to identify a private and a public source of money that will back up what they give. And we do have the money that so many different groups are offering, but we want to be under the state so that it'll be all authorized, and that's what happens with the hospital authority. All those places can get a hospital authority according to our Georgia law by just requesting it, and they can join with any other hospital authorities that is in the area. And so that's why we've talked to more than just those two cities, because we want to know what they want to do.
Or one last question, Mr. Chairman, if you'll allow. Do we have to, hospital authorities, do we have to set those up in statute? Or do they do that locally?
No, we don't.
It's done locally.
That's, yes.
I don't.
We,
So authority goes through CON?
no,
You know the answer.
no,
Good luck
they
with that.
can form their own authority
Okay.
without
Lucas.
Georgia law, but we are doing a resolution. This is not a
Yes.
bill.
I've just never dealt with a hospital authority in my 7 years. I'm just trying to learn here.
Our legislative council can answer that
Okay.
if.
Yeah, there's general law that as the senator said, basically authorizes every city and county in the state to activate their hospital authority. So what they would be doing, they would have to have the city council, or if you have a county involved, the county commission, basically adopt like resolutions saying they want to do this. So we take action on the part of those local governments and activate them.
So our general counsel said that there is general law, and both city councils would have to enact their resolutions to form an authority. Did I?
That's right.
Okay. All right. Senator Lucas, you got a question?
But Mr. Chairman, this is on the resolution, urgent, so I don't see a problem with it.
No problem from Senator Lucas. Kirkpatrick? Senator Kirkpatrick?
Yeah, I certainly think there is a need, and if we didn't have to go through this certificate of need process, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. But, so did you say you've sat down with Wellstar about trying to get their CON?
East Point and some of the doctors, including Dr. John Ross, who I've been talking to here almost every day for months now. He's there. They have been in talks where they actually sit down trying to find out if they would be able to get the CON from them. So, and also, you know, we can get a CON from any of the other hospitals that have closed within the past 12 months. But we'd have to be in negotiation, yes. A CON will stand for Georgia.
Follow up, Mr. Chair. I thought that the CON of the hospitals being moved had to be within a certain number of miles, maybe three or
like
some small number of miles.
I don't know.
50.
You may come from CMS because you got to get funded for your non-compensated care that comes from the federal government, Medicaid, Medicare. So the CMS is the one that basically sets those requirements for hospitals to get federal money.
And we do have federal,
All right, so
we have federal support too from some of our elected officials.
So this is an urging resolution, and any further questions from the committee? No. Move do pass from Senator Setzler. Second, Senator Brass. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Well, thank you,
Thank you. Will you-
committee. We
will
appreciate
you
that.
carry
Thank
it?
you, Senator James, and thank you, everyone. So we have our final meeting at 3 o'clock on Wednesday to make sure everything gets out to the Rules Committee in time, and that's it. Any further business? If not, meeting adjourned.